Hey guys, it's Mike. This is my first video kind of talking about my collections and things that kind of brought me into the love of horror. A lot of people ask me, Mike, you're such a nice guy, you're pretty quiet. Why is it that you love horror movies so much? They're so violent and gory and depressing. And I'm like, well, you know, I grew up with seven older brothers and sisters. So a lot of my tastes are somewhat their tastes. Um, there was a show back in the 70s called Creature Feature. And every Saturday, my brother and sister and I would have to stay down in the tavern part of my mom and dad's business. There was a little living area off to the side and back, and it was, private. So we would sit in there and we would watch different movies that were on TV, one of them being Creature Feature. And every weekend, Creature Feature would have movies like Godzilla, King Kong, Dracula, The Wolfman, Creature from the Black Lagoon, those types of movies. So that was kind of where my love of horror started. I didn't really get into collecting until the 80s, but there were certain movies that were a part of my horror growth, I guess you would say. And I just wanted to show a few of those off. Some of the originals I have in my collections, and some I don't. Some I'm going to get into my collections, and some I probably won't. But one of the very first horror movies I ever remembered loving, and there were numerous of these movies, was Godzilla. Now I have the remake of Godzilla here. Um, the remakes have been fine. I like any kind of Godzilla movie, but as a little boy, there were all kinds of Godzilla. I mean, he was battling everybody, including us. Mostly Japan, I guess. But yeah, I loved Godzilla. I even had little figures of Godzilla. I remember having a figure that his spine thing, the little, whatever they call that, glowed in the dark, and that was huge. I was just enamored with that. I took it with me everywhere. I was such a weird kid. I'm surprised. Another movie that absolutely terrified me as a kid, and it was also the first time I ever saw it, was on Creature Feature, because it came out before I was born, was an Alfred Hitchcock movie, and that would be The Birds. This is the Steelbook edition of The Birds that I got off of one of, I don't know if it was Scream Factory or whatever, but I have several versions of this. But this is The Birds by Alfred Hitchcock. I had nightmares about birds attacking after seeing this movie. For a while, actually. As a matter of fact, it's a recurring thing that I still, on occasion, will have a nightmare about birds attacking. That school scene in particular freaked me out because the school didn't really look like my school, but the playground equipment kind of looked like the stuff that was in my schoolyard. So yeah, it was pretty creepy being a little kid and seeing those monkey bars and all that stuff, and just thinking of all the birds that were on top of it. Psycho also freaked me out. It took me a long time to take a shower. I would only take baths for quite a while, but The Birds definitely was one of those movies that just terrorized me. But I love it. I like being scared once in a while. Most movies nowadays, they don't really scare me. They may be a little bit intense, and gore, I can take it or leave it. I like a good scary movie. It doesn't have to be gory. It could be a cheesy sci-fi movie, sci-fi channel movie, and I'm happy with that because it doesn't have to be gory to kind of get you on edge. And I think even Get Out and movies like that have kind of proved that you don't have to constantly have heads being smashed and body parts cut off to make a movie scary. Another movie that I have, it's the remake. I do have the new one coming. I ordered it so that I could have it in my collection because I love the original and I love Steve McQueen. He was an awesome actor. But that is, of course, The Blob. The Blob was one of those movies as a kid that just was awesome to me. I just couldn't get enough of watching this big blob of slimy chewing gum going along swallowing up people. Of course, the effects back then were a lot um, less than they are now, so the remake was a lot more gory. But still, that original was pretty cool. Then people running out of that theater, woo, scared me to death. It took me a long time to go to a theater without looking back to make sure that there was nothing oozing out of the projection room. Another movie that scared me to death as a kid. It was the first movie I ever went to a theater with my sister, and that was Gremlins. This movie I thought was going to be like a fun, and I think she did too. You're going to hear all kinds of noises in this house. We have like 50 cats in this house. I don't own a cat, but my roommates have 6. Um, yeah, so yeah, there's always something falling, crashing, burning. You know, cats. Love them. Anyway, yeah, the Gremlins scared me to death. And they killed off Flo from Alice. Flo, come on. Kiss my grits. Just depressed me. I didn't own that movie for a long time because of that particular scene, because I love Polly Holiday so much, but I got over it. I get it. What are you going to do? All right, next one I'm going to show you is a movie that I went to see with my sister as well at a theater. She was about 300 months pregnant at the time, and she wanted to see a horror movie. So we went and saw the original Amityville Horror. Now, is the movie as scary as the book? No. I do like this movie. I'm one of those people that kind of like movies that nobody else really cares for. And I'm one of those people that kind of don't like movies that other people do. It's just who I am. But that's good because that allows lots of movies to be made and everybody to find what they like. I'm not going to criticize anybody for what they like. And if you criticize me for what I like, well. So, yeah, Amityville Horror. My sister, like 1,000 months pregnant. And of course, every little freaky thing that happened in the movie, she's like, oh, I'm going to have this baby. Oh, I'm going to have this baby. Yeah, I was more scared of her than the movie. Yeah. The book, on the other hand, I loved reading books, and I had just gotten into Stephen King and all of that stuff. So when I read this book, I was scared to death by them red eyes in the window. You know, if you have read the book, you know that's the pig eyes. And actually, I guess the movie kind of covers it. But I remember going into my dark kitchen and to get a drink of water and seeing red taillights in the kitchen window and literally screaming and running out of the kitchen because I had just read about the pig eyes. So, books, movies, yeah, I like it all. Now, this was a movie that was on one of our local little channels. It wasn't like ABC, NBC, any of those. Back in the day when we didn't have cable, there was a time, not too terribly long ago, when there was no cable. You had like 7 channels, 8 channels, if you were lucky. But our little local channel from St. Louis was KPLR TV Channel 11, and they would show different movies on Saturdays and different movies on Sundays. Well, Saturdays they would throw in a horror movie every now and then, and the one horror movie that just freaked me out is a movie called Squirm. And yes, it's about worms, and it's about worms that go into your skin, and I don't know if you guys can see that very well, but it was one of those movies that just took simple little things. I used to love to fish, so worms never scared me until I saw this movie. But yeah, the town that it gets hit by a big storm, and one of the big electrical thingies, the substations or whatever, gets hit by lightning, and all these wires fall on the ground, and they're frying the ground, and all the worms become energized, and they basically go on a rampage in this little city and eat people. Yeah. That kind of changed your mind about fishing for a while, but yeah, I just went fishing because my mom and dad went fishing. I was more of the let's play in the water kind of guy and get yelled at because I was scaring the fish away. All right, and the last movie I'm going to show you is a movie that stars your favorite little Christmas boy from A Christmas Story. That's another movie lots of people love, and I don't get. Um, yeah. And that is a movie called Death Valley. Now, Death Valley was a good little slasher flick. And this was a movie I had never heard of because I didn't have cable. But I would babysit my brother and sister-in-law's kids in the town they lived in. It was a bigger town, and they did have cable. And this was one of the movies that I saw on their cable channels whenever I would babysit. I saw it several times, and each time I saw it, I thought, that's pretty good, it's pretty good. I liked it a lot. And that's kind of what put me on that slasher type movies. And this was before I ever saw Friday the 13th or Halloween or any of those movies. So yeah, those are the movies that kind of started my love for horror. I'd love to hear what movies turned you on to horror. I think everybody probably has a different story. And horror isn't my only thing. If you look over here, you can see I kind of like Christmas stuff, and that's a whole bunch of Hallmark movies. I'm not so thrilled with Hallmark at this point because of them firing Lori Loughlin over something stupid that rich people do all the time. But what are you going to do? I don't own Hallmark. So, yeah, I like Christmas movies. I like comedies, sort of. I don't like cheesy comedies. I like comedies. Yeah, we'll get into that later, okay? All right, so hopefully you enjoyed this video. If you did, please like and subscribe. And I will talk to you all from lovely Savannah, Georgia on another day.